He's got to send a Louisiana Divebomb. He's got a Louisiana Divebomb.
Come on, Reddick, you got this.
Pump it. Here's the pump and run. Go. Louisiana Divebomb.
Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome back to another edition of the Louisiana Divebomb podcast, everybody. Episode 42. Just coming off a weekend of COTA, Circuit of the Americas over in Austin, Texas. We had the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series for the weekend. Had some IndyCar as well. I saw a little bit of that. I will just get that out of the way first. IndyCar on Fox. Pretty interesting. I'd have to say the race from St. Pete, it was fun. Pelot won. The broadcast overall, I liked it. The mix of Townsend Bell, Hinchcliffe, and then Will Buxton as well made for an interesting broadcast. I didn't really know what to expect from Will being in the lead commentator position, but I thought he did a fine job. And I mean, things will get better over time, it seems. Fun race for IndyCar. Only had one wreck, and that was the first lap, couple of corners. I didn't really see it, but for the most part, I thought the race was pretty entertaining. Like I said, Pelot won. Shocker. I don't really watch IndyCar all that much, mostly because whenever they run it, I'm either working or I'm not able to watch. So get that out of the way first. Some of the Fox guys from NASCAR were there, like Jamie Little, Bob Pockrass. They were there doing coverage for that race, so it took them away from Circuit of the Americas, where the action was still flowing for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. So now that we got IndyCar out of the way, we'll get to the Cup Series and the race. So they shortened the road course length. I believe it was about 4.2 miles, maybe. It was I think it was the longest track that they had on the schedule. But for some reason in the offseason, they decided to switch it up and change it to 2.4 right after the S's, around Turn 6 or Turn 6A is what they'd call it. It was like a little left-hander, pretty much like a shortcut between the other sections of the racetrack. So it was like right in the middle. Get onto that, and then you're pretty much down the end of that long back straight where in the past we would still go through the S's, go through that hard left-hand turn, and then down the mile-long straightaway. I gotta admit, I wasn't fond of it at first, but over the course of the weekend, I grew to like it more and more, and now, I'm a fan of it. So, here's my main issue with the new layout, okay? So, they would police guys through the S's, and we saw that happen last year. Shane Van Gisbergen, he was contending for the win in the Xfinity Series. He didn't win. He finished like second or third, but because he cut through one of the S's on the last lap or last two laps, whatever, he got penalized and sent all the way to the rear of the field. So NASCAR was policing turns 3, 4, and 5. I'd say those turns specifically because they are the S's, but turn 6 is also a part of the S in the S's. So for some reason, they didn't police it. And I noticed that during the Xfinity race where Connor Zilisch was doing it, and I guess he was the only one doing it because no one else was really saying over the radio, hey, they're turn 6. It's like a cheat cut or a shortcut, a cheat code. So no one was really policing that through, and boy, did we see that go into effect on Sunday's race, because that's the only thing I don't like about this. So you're going to police 3, 4, and 5, right? But turn 6 is also a part of the S's. Why not police it all? And at the beginning of the week, they had like these 400-pound tire barriers that were sitting right there, right next to the curbing, so that people couldn't shortcut it. But for some reason, I don't know why they took it out. They only left the one over at 6A, which I was shocked that no one hit, but everyone got the memo there. And it seems like next year when they go, they need to have something there, because just over the course of the race, drivers were merging from the curbing to the red paint to the blue paint that was about 5 or 6, maybe 7 feet off from the actual racetrack. And at that point, you got to put a stop to it. So I would hope that NASCAR learned their lesson, and that for next time they would do that, because over the course of the race, it was just getting ridiculous. Like, you could literally shortcut that turn and wouldn't even be penalized for it. Because if you're running 7 feet off the racetrack in the blue paint, and NASCAR's not saying anything about it, or they can't do anything, why even shortcut it that much? Just shortcut it entirely. Someone said that on Twitter, and I kind of agree with them on that. So that's the only thing I really don't like about the new layup. Other than that, the racing was phenomenal. We had different strategies galore. I mean, we had a wreck on lap 1, and it was Chastain taking it six deep, six wide into turn 1. He was trying to win the race there. He didn't win the race into turn 1. He ended up taking out Chase Elliott. And boy, oh boy, that was the beginning of a long day for that 9 team. And they would eventually recover from it, but it literally took them the entire race to get back to pretty much where they were. Also, in that little turn 1 kerfluffle, Connor Zilisch, Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin all collided with each other. So Ty Gibbs ramped off the side of Denny Hamlin's number 11. God, I can't believe I don't do that more. His whole left side was off the ground, and then I guess he hit Zilisch to his outside, and, you know, that was the beginning of a long day for Zilisch as well, but he was able to recover nicely through the first couple of stages. Didn't really have any yellows in the first stage. You had some cars go off track, some cars spin, but for the most part, everything was fine. Bubba Wallace won stage 1, to give you an idea of how that went. So he qualified second. He faded towards the back half of the top 10. Guys were pitting before the end of the stage so they could get in a better position for stage 2. Bubba and Logano, I believe, were the only two who didn't do that, so they were able to come away with big stage points there. Early on, it seemed like it was going to be Shane Van Gisbergen or Kyle Busch. Tyler Reddick was in the mix as well. Those were the 3 cars in the first stage that were top-notch, the ones to beat in the field. Second stage happens. It's relatively clean. There's no yellows, maybe some bumping and banging between the drivers, but other than that, nothing major. Ryan Preece won the second stage, and again, it was different strategies. Like him and Blaney stayed out, so they got stage points massively. Michael McDowell, I believe he restarted as the leader in the third stage because he pitted earlier than everyone else. But again, it was still Kyle Busch, Shane Van Gisbergen, the ones to watch. Allmendinger made his way through. Byron made his way through. So guys from the back were starting to make their way towards the front. And then third stage starts, and immediately we get chaos between the Trackhouse cars with Daniel Suarez spinning out on his own. Actually, he went over a sausage curb, as Harvick likes to put it, or a hot dog roll or whatever. He went over an orange bump through turn 19, I believe, and it upset the car so much that it spun around. He was able to corral it for maybe 1 second. That's when Connor Zilisch was trying to drive around it, and I saw on his onboard, he was following the car in line with him. They went to the outside. He was following their tire tracks, and then through the smoke, the 99 just appeared. He didn't hold the brake at all, and then wham! Zilisch just slams into Daniel Suarez and into the outside. I don't even know what to call it. It's not a safer barrier, but it's like a protective wall that they use for Formula One. He crashed into that, and he was ultimately knocked out of the race. It was unfortunate because he started 14th. He had that issue on lap 1, and then slowly but surely he methodically worked his way through. He was getting closer towards the top 10. He was pretty much where he was at the beginning of the race when that happened. So unfortunate there. If that didn't happen, who knows? We probably could have stayed green, but that was a yellow for incident, and then we went 24 laps without another yellow. So in the meantime, we had differing strategies. Kyle Busch, it seemed like he was locked and loaded, the favorite. He was going to pull through and win. He had a large lead. It was over Byron, Bell, Reddick. Shane Van Gisbergen was on a different strategy, and he pretty much needed a yellow to come out to keep him in the running. And he got exactly that. So over off in the turn 6A, around that area, Denny Hamlin, guys were getting off course throughout that part of the track. So somehow some dirt got onto the racetrack. Denny Hamlin ran over that dirt on said racetrack, and then spun into, ironically, the three of Austin Dillon. Both of them spin out. Hamlin's able to fire and get going again. Austin Dillon in the kitty litter, as Mike Joy called it. He's stuck in the gravel. So Kyle Busch's 3-second lead over the 24 just evaporated because the 3 couldn't get out, and they need to have a yellow. And this was like worst case scenario for me, because before this weekend even began, I made 3 cup bets. I had William Byron top 5, Christopher Bell top 5, Tyler Reddick top 5. They were running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th when that caution happened, and I'm just thinking, I don't need this. I already know there's going to be chaos on this next restart, and it's going to lead to more and more and more, and none of my guys are going to finish top 5. Yeah, that didn't happen. So we ended up having one of the best battles for the win that I've seen in quite some time, especially on a road course in itself, too. I mean, Kyle Busch was able to drive away for the most part, but then towards the end of that last stint, he was starting to get a little squirrely on and off the track. It was such a phenomenal battle. And I mean, Shane Van Gisbergen, like I mentioned, he needed the yellow to get back in this one. So he wasn't in the mix because his car on the short run sucked. He couldn't restart. I mean, the longer the run went, the better the 88 car was. But for some reason, the short run speed was just not there for Shane Van Gisbergen. And he ultimately paid the price for it. He was able to recover for a nice finish. But he wasn't in a winning position that we all thought he would be. So I mentioned it. Christopher Bell, he's hounding on the bumper of Kyle Busch. I mean, Kyle Busch, he's making mistakes left. He's making mistakes right. He's doing, and it's not big mistakes either for the most part. He's just making tiny mistakes where the 20 can capitalize and gain a little bit more through each turn. There was one turn where he really, oh no. Okay, so before I get to that, so this is 9 to go. Christopher Bell, he has a chance to get around Kyle Busch for the lead. He locks him up and overshoots turn 1. He almost ran into the bumper of Kyle Busch. Now, I'm not sure if memory has it correct for most people. I certainly forgot about this, but last year, Kyle Busch was dumped by Christopher Bell, and it ended a perfect, or he was having a top 5 run, I believe, as well. And he had a perfect run go sour, and Kyle Busch was mad after the race. He confronted Christopher Bell. He could have beat his ass if he wanted to, but he chose not to. And, oh, look at the script writers from NASCAR going to work. Sorry, I'm blowing my nose into a tissue right now, trying to do as quietly as possible. But yeah, the script writers for NASCAR, I mean, phenomenal storytelling. That's what we call long-term storytelling. So, fast forward a year later, it's still Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, William Byron. I'm taking a sip of my water. I'm so thirsty. This battle was great. So it looked like Byron maybe was going to be able to get around Christopher Bell after that shenanigan, but nope. Bell was able to focus in and close the gap. I mean, he was back to his bumper within the lap. He messed up at turn 1, and then by the time they came through turn 20, he was right there again. Christopher Bell, next lap, had another sed to the inside. Didn't quite get enough there. But he was able to continue applying pressure to the 8. Meanwhile, Bell's not, he remembers what happened last year, so he's not going to try and do anything to wreck that. He's trying to pass him cleanly. That's why he waited as long as he did. But in the meantime, Byron closed in quite a bit, and then the 45 of Reddick was closing in as well. And then going through to the stadium section, Kyle Busch wheel hopped it just a little bit. I believe it was with 6 to go when this happened. So through the S's, Kyle Busch was great. But after that, it seemed like the 20 of Bell was good. So earlier in the lap, my memory's jogging up again. Coming through turn 2, Bell had a strong run to the inside, and they're heading up on the S's now. Being side-by-side in the S's is not ideal. So the 8 and the 20, they're closing in. They make contact. I think that might have had a little something to do with Kyle Busch's car, because his car after that just could not handle. The left front of Bell's hit the right rear of Kyle Busch. Also, shout out to Fox, by the way, for the phenomenal camera work. I mean, we have a side-by-side battle for the win, and we're going to cut to a helicopter shot facing the back side of the grandstands and not see any of the battle at all. I mean, just superb stuff from Fox. So I saw this on Twitter too, the same sequence. Clint Boyer's side, whenever the camera cut to the helicopter facing the back of the grandstands, and someone, I don't know if it was the producers or one of the announcers, but someone hit a mute button in the booth because it comes back and then Harvick's like mid-sentence and Mike Joy had just finished explaining something. But the fans didn't hear it at home because we just heard just in-car audio for 10 seconds. And the announcers were silent in the middle of a tight battle for the win. And this was eventually the pass for the win. So Bell was able to get around Busch on the inside heading into turn 20. And everyone's already caught up. Byron's there. Reddick is there. So if any mistake happens between the 8 and the 20, those two next in line, they're in a great spot. But Kyle Busch didn't let go just yet. He was going to try and set it around on the outside, but it wasn't enough. He eventually let the 24 of Byron on through. And for that next lap, I mean, the top four, they were all right there. I mean, Christopher Bell was being defensive with how he was racing the 24, and then the 8 was just trying to mimic it. Reddick's just trying to watch everything unfold. Once they get to the stadium section, that was like the best part of the race. I mean, I'm looking back at it now. Everyone's taking a different line going into the stadium section. I believe it's turn 13. I don't know the turns that well at COTA, but heading through, the 20's looking low, the 24 is a little higher, the 8's higher than that, and then 45 of Reddick is low. I mean, this was the battle of the year so far. 4 cars going for the win in the closing stages of a road course. A road course! COTA! And to think at first, I hated COTA so bad, and that was because it was the first year, 2021, when it was just rain-soaked, and the entire race was just a monsoon, and people were literally running into each other because they could not see. That's how bad the rain was. And then the next gen comes along, 2022, that finish with Chastain, Bowman, Allmendinger, phenomenal. And I mean, I've been a fan pretty much since then. I was like, yeah, you know what? It was a bad first year, but the next 4 years, I mean, phenomenal. Great racing. We had Chastain get his first Cup win. We had Tyler Reddick get the first win for 23-11 after Kurt Busch's incident in Pocono. Byron won last year, and then this year it was William. Oh, it wasn't William Byron. It was Christopher Bell. I almost said William Bell. But no, Christopher Bell was able to pull through and win. So far, in my opinion, the race of the year. We are 3 races in, and it is a road course, but I mean, that road course race was just so damn good. I mean, so good. Props to COTA for, NASCAR really for shortening the track length of COTA, but shout out to COTA as well just for existing, because if they wasn't for that, who knows where the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series would have been at for the weekend. So Christopher Bell wins, William Byron second, Tyler Reddick third, and yeah, all 3 of my bets hit. All 3 of those guys finished inside the top 5. They finished 1, 2, 3. Everyone passed post-race inspection fine. So I'm going to collect some moolah today. Chase Elliott, mentioned him. He was able to rebound to 4th. So that last caution that came out, he came in, pitted for tires. And towards the end of that run, it paid off because he drove inside the top 10. And then he drove his way inside the top 5. So a solid recovery for Chase Elliott. He did start the race 3rd. So pretty much back to where he started at from lap 1. Kyle Busch, best car of the day. He led the most laps with 42. He finishes 5th. I mean, it's a solid finish nonetheless, but fans want to see Kyle Busch win, man. I mean, it seems like something's got to give for this 8 car to win. It just seems like heartbreak after heartbreak with the 8 car. Maybe it'll turn around next week in Phoenix. Who knows? But Shane Van Gisbergen, the favorite to win, finishes 6th. He started there, ironically, and he led 23 laps. Chris Buescher pulled through for a 7th place finish. Sportsbooks, you done messed up again. If you give Chris Buescher plus money to finish inside the top 10, you're going to lose money. Anyone who bets on that is going to win. Entering this race, he had 13 top 10 finishes on road courses in the next-gen car. And now it's 14 because he is a road course god for some reason in this next-gen. He won last He won last year at Watkins Glen. It's not, like, what are we doing? Put some respect on Chris Buescher's name. Actually, you know what? Don't put respect on his name. Keep him at plus money because every time you do that, I'm going to hit that and I'm going to win that bet because it's Chris Buescher. It's a road course. It just makes sense. Noah Gragson, he spun out early on. In that last stint, it seemed like he just popped up out of nowhere. He was running 5th at one point with about 10 to go. Faded around to 8th. Solid finish for him in Front Row Motorsports nonetheless. Alex Bowman, he had quite a race himself. I'm looking at it now. He was off track at some point. He had to serve, I believe, a couple penalties for... one of them was a pit road penalty. I know that. So he just had an up and down day, but his car was fast and he finished 9th. He spun out as well. I mean, Bowman's great at COTA. Prior to this race, he finished every next-gen race inside the top 5. So, unfortunately, that streak came to an end, but still a top 10 finish nonetheless. Solid for him. And how about Todd Gilliland? Todd Gilliland, top 10 on a road course. 2 front row cars inside the top 10. Can't beat that. He replaced Michael McDowell, who finished 11th with Spire Motorsports. McDowell was so close to a top 10. Chastain finished 12th. Hocevar 13th. Briscoe, Keselowski in the top 15. Some guys who came from the back to the front somewhat. Justin Haley, he was inside the top 10 in that last stint. Faded to 16th. Riley Herbst, he started 31st, and he recovered nicely. He finished 17th. He was around the top 20, top 15 for the entirety of the race after the first handful of laps. Looking through, Bubba finished 20th. Now, that's okay. It's a road course, but just the speed that he had in qualifying was ridiculous. To qualify front row with his teammate Tyler Reddick, Bubba's not good on road courses. And I noticed looking through the sports books before the weekend began, he was like plus 10,000 to win. His odds were so high up because he's so bad on road courses. Then after qualifying, they're listing him as plus 2,500 to win. No, what are you doing? Bubba ain't winning that. And he was minus money for a top 10. No, I'm sorry. But Bubba's not good on road courses. So I don't know why the sports books would do that. That's just me. I guess they were trying to get more money. It didn't work because I wasn't falling for that. Some other notables. John Hunter finished 22nd. His top 10 streak for the season comes to a close. He finished 10th. Or inside the top 10 at Daytona and Atlanta. Joey Logano, 24th. Yeah, that'll happen. Austin Cindric, I'm kind of surprised. He did start deep in 36, but he finished 25th. And he's kind of good on these road courses, so I'm a little shocked to see that. Some other guys who just wish that they weren't here to begin with at COTA. Ty Dillon, he finished 28th. He was right hooked, actually, or left hooked, I should say, by the two of Cindric. So I'm not sure if NASCAR is going to do anything about that because it seemed like he literally just came across the whole racetrack and spun the two out. Wow. What happened to Allmendinger? I'm just noticing now he finished 30th. He restarted inside the top 5 with 18 to go, and for some reason he finished 30th. What happened there? Oh my God. Throughout that race, the 16 of Allmendinger, he just kept climbing up through the field. I think he was as high as, he led a couple of laps too. So he was leading at some point, and for some reason, he just faded off, and that was a bad time to fade away. Speaking of fade away, Kyle Larson's right front faded away, and that summed up his day because he couldn't recover from that, and then he spun out in that last stint as well. So it was a day to forget for Kyle Larson and his fan group, a.k.a. me. He finished 32nd, which it's whatever at this point. So he'll have a couple of crew members suspended for a couple of weeks unless they appeal it, which they probably will, so they can at least have him for one more race at Phoenix. Ryan Preece, 33rd. Ty Gibbs, 34th. A day to forget for the 54 car. Austin Dillon, 35th. he actually DNF'd from that incident. Daniel Suarez and Connor Zilisch, 36th, 37th. So we had a great weekend of cup racing. The Xfinity Series was fun as well. Connor Zilisch, the odds-on favorite to win. He won the pole. Seemed like he was going to be in a good spot. Not so fast. So a late yellow came out at the end of stage 1, and Connor Zilisch pitted when the caution light went to, or when the pit light went from green to yellow, indicating that the caution had come out. So this was at the end of the stage, right? So this was coming to 2 to go. So he was able to pit fine. But it's kind of close with that caution light, and when the yellow came out, pit road was closed. He didn't see it. So he ultimately pitted, had to restart the rear of the field, and I'm thinking, no way did I just lose money because I bet on Zilisch to win, and that happened. So it was clear as day that the 88 was the fastest car because he was right back in the mix in stage 3. Someone stalled on the track. I don't know who it was, but someone stalled on the racetrack, and I can tell you who it was. It was the Argentinian driver, Baltazar. Can't say that last name, but his car was stalled on the racetrack. And that's pretty much what derailed the race a little bit for Connor Zilisch. He was able to recover nicely. Not really a whole lot of incidents until you really get to the third stage. That was a little bit chaotic. So Connor Zilisch, again, like a human wrecking ball. He has the fastest car on the racetrack, yet he wants to beat and bang and just crash into anything and everything. That third stage, he was just making moves that were a little bit too aggressive, and it quite nearly costed him the race. I mean, he was caught up in some shenanigans where he should have been taken out of the race, but ultimately it did not happen. Let me go back and look at it here. So, mentioned on the restart. So, sorry, I'm looking at this again. So, the final stage begins, and he immediately sends it wide in the turn 1, forcing his teammate Carson Kvapil wide. Austin Hill to the lead. So then Connor Zilisch, he notices that, and he's trying to regain his ground, right? He's trying to regain everything that he lost. So one of the stadium turns, I think it's turn 17, he sends it beneath Corey Heim, and he bottles it again. He door slams Heim, he spins him out, and then he's got major right side damage. Like the right front was caved in. There was tire smoke galore. It seemed like his race was over. And his car was smoking so bad on the front stretch, you thought that, okay, the tire's going to go down at some point. I mean, the whole right front was just completely destroyed. But for some reason, it buffed out the longer the run went. But I mean, the contact that he made with the 24, I mean, I'm looking at it again. It looked so damn bad. I didn't think he was going to win. So Austin Hill's leading. And by the way, don't underestimate Austin Hill on these road courses. He's very good at that too. He's not a road course merchant like he is on the super speedways, but he had a pretty fast car. It seemed like he was going to be in contention for the win. But then the 88 car came back to life, and Carson Kvapil came to life too. They both got around him, and in the closing laps, Carson Kvapil seemed like he was going to be the underdog favorite to win, plus 3,500. If you threw $10 on Kvapil and he would have won, then you would have won $350 plus your bet back, so pretty much $360. But it was really just a matter of time until the 88 got back, because the 1 was locking up in the turns, the 88 was locking up on braking, Austin Hill was locking up on braking. The entire top 3, it seemed like they alternated every lap between who was going to lock up and where. Most of the time it was in the final turn, turn 20. So with about 9 to go, Connor Zilisch finally made his move to the inside. He got around Carson Kvapil, and I mean, Carson Kvapil sent it. So he tried to get him back at turn 6A where that tire barrier was, and they almost hit it, and then they almost hit the tire barrier on the outside wall. So what does that do? that closes the gap for him and Carson, or not Carson. Actually, I didn't close the gap for anyone. I thought it brought Austin Hill closer, but he was battling his own issues. And Carson Kvapil cut a tire with 5 to go. So he was running second, and unfortunately his tire went at the worst time. His finish for this race doesn't speak of how he ran, because he at one point was in a race-winning position. And ultimately, that did not happen. What we ended up instead was Connor Zilisch getting the win, his first of the season, his second, I believe, of his Xfinity career. And, yeah, he's going to be a problem. We already figured that out. I mean, he was the odds-on favorite to win. I didn't think it would be in the fashion that he went through to win it in, but nonetheless, he wins. God, my mouth is so dry. I talk too much. So William Byron ran double duty this weekend. He was also in this race. He finished second. Sam Mayer finished third for Haas factory team. And Austin Hill wound out with a top 5 performance. Hey, he was almost +2, or sorry, readjusted my chair. He was almost +300 for a top 5 finish. And he's only ran 3 races prior to this at COTA. He finished second in 2 of them, and he DNF'd 1 of them because of an engine issue. But when he doesn't have mechanical issues, that 21 car is quick. So he finishes 4th. And Christian Eckes, I don't know what happened to him because I missed the first part of the race because I was at work. For some reason, his car was so beat up, it seemed like he was in 10 wrecks. I don't think that's true, but that's just the way his car was because there was so much tape from it. Top 5 finish. Solid. Jesse Love 6th, Taylor Gray 7th. Ross Chastain was in this race as well. He finished 8th. Zilisch P9. And Blaine Perkins, a top 10 finish for him in the Jordan Anderson equipment. Solid all around. Looking at some other notables here. So Sheldon Creed finished 12th. 13th was Riley Herbst. He was in this race. Josh Williams somewhat had a good race. Ryan Sieg started all the way back in 38th, finished 19th. Brennan Poole is the only Alpha Prime car in the race, which is kind of shocking to think about. We'll get to that in a little bit. Carson Kvapil ended up finishing 23rd after that tire cut. With 5 to go. It was a race to forget for most other people. Austin Green, not going to lie, I thought he was going to do better, but ultimately was not the case. He finished 26th. He finished 7th last year, so I kind of thought that he would, perform well. Didn't happen. Kyle Sieg, 27th. Justin Allgaier had a race to forget as well. He was caught up in some shenanigans in this tire cut, and yeah, bad day for the 7. He finished 29th. Brandon Jones, 30th. Shocker. Corey Heim, 31st. He was running inside the top 5 when that happened between him and Zilisch, and he did not recover from that. And then the DNFs were Sage Karam with a transmission issue. Harrison Burton had an axle issue in the final 10 laps. Preston Pardis had a rear end issue. Baltazar, he had a suspension issue, and that was the yellow that came out that kind of bottled Zilisch for a good portion of the race. And then Carson Hocevar, he filled in for Garrett Smithley because he wasn't comfortable running on road courses, and he was out 3 laps in. He wrecked out. Oh, no. So, that's that. That was COTA. Overall, fun weekend. COTA, great racetrack. Short layout, keep it. I wouldn't be opposed if they went back to the longer layout, but after what we saw, I doubt they do that. Next week, we go to Phoenix, so little preview of what the championship might be. Whoever runs well there could possibly run well back or in the future in November. That could be a possibility. Early favorites for that. I'm looking at Christopher Bell, William Byron. Again, they're the only guys, or 3 races into the season, but they are the only 2 with wins next to their name for the Cup Series. And Byron won 23, Bell won in 24. Ryan Blaney as well. Blaney has some strong performances in the desert. Looking at it right now, Blaney's average finish is 2.8. since the next gen. His worst finish in the next gen era at Phoenix is 5th. Holy cow. Blaney is probably going to be the favorite to